in the ancestral lands where the sounds of nature echoed in harmony. There was a farm called Siegland, shrouded in mysteries and ancient legends. Even before the arrival of the Siegland family, the lands were inhabited by the spirits of indigenous gods, guardians of the balance between the world of men and the spiritual world. In that land, Henry Siegland was born and raised, heir to a lineage that stretched through generations. However, he never liked his farm much. He said he heard voices calling him in the dead of night. His father, impatient with the boy's fears, tied him to the bed so he would fall asleep. But the voices continued to haunt him. One day, when he was tied to his bed, he confessed to his father that the voices came from an old tree in the yard. Henry had provoked the worst night of his life. This time, his father tied him to the tree and left him there all night. Henry heard the voices much more intensely and could hear them clearly.
Henry, your time is near. Come on, Henry, come join us. We're waiting for you, happily waiting.
After his father's death, and as he entered adulthood, Henry stopped hearing the voices. With his self-esteem sharpened, he met a beautiful young woman in town. After many attempts, he won over Charlotte Caris and left the farm to his brother, going to live with his beloved in her house. The two lived an intense love. But Henry let himself be carried away by other loves, and in the end, abandoned Charlotte in her house, returning to his farm. On the farm, Henry cultivated his land with fervor. There was something about that land calling him back, and he, not knowing why, could not resist. He needed to cultivate. Meanwhile, Charlotte, alone in her house, cultivated sadness. In the height of her pain, she took her own life, for only then would she suffer no more. Henry's heartless action in abandoning Charlotte provoked the ire of James Caris, her brother. Consumed by hatred, James went to the farm and shot Henry. After seeing his act of revenge completed, James turned the gun on himself and fired. However, fate had other plans. Henry had cowardly pretended to be dead. The bullet grazed his cheek, finding its resting place in the old tree at the back of his barn, the same tree that tormented him in his childhood. Years passed, and the blood and hatred were muffled by time. But the energy remained, waiting in silence until the desire for revenge awakened again. Finally, 20 years after James's shot, Henry began to hear the voices from the tree again. They were confusing, turbulent, and angry. Henry decided to remove the tree and asked his brother Jacob to help him. They tried to cut it down with an axe, but the tree was too thick, as resilient as steel and as ancient as Jericho. So Henry decided to use dynamite to blow it up. The dynamite explosions echoed like thunder, and the bullet, lodged in the wood for so long, was launched in a final act of revenge, finding its ultimate target. Henry Siegland, enveloped by the shadow of the past, met his death at the hands of a bullet that had long awaited his return.